Okay, team. Take two. Happy Friday Eve, everybody, and welcome to Challenge and Change. If you already went through this slide, which I posted on Tuesday, April 14th, today's Thursday, April 16th, and you had clarity with it, you probably do not need to listen to this recording as well or watch this recording as well. If you struggled a little bit with understanding what was in the PowerPoint, or you opened it, you saw a lot of words and said, not today, you can take a listen through this, and hopefully that will help alleviate any questions or sort of direct your questions into a more precise area, okay? So when you were writing this research paper, just a few things to consider. One, you have been trained for the past 4 years at writing MLA English papers. A research paper and an English paper are not the same thing. They are not created equal. They both prove points, but the way that they get there is very different. In a research paper, the style, the fluidity, the flow, the embedding of quotes, it's not really the same thing. Instead, you're going to have designated sections to explain concisely but accurately what it is you want to say. So, your 7 sections, references included, are the intro, your literature review, the methodology, findings, discussion, conclusion, and then references. All of these things are going to be separated by headings. So in 12-point double-spaced font, your body writing is going to occur. The headings are going to be isolated from those. So at the end of your introduction paragraph, you're going to have a new bolded heading that says review of literature, and then following that will be your literature review paragraph, and so on. Your intro is different here than it would be in an English paper. Again, in MLA, you're going very, very general to very, very specific. That inverted triangle we've done so many times. Now, in your intro here, it's going to state the issue you're going to address and poses the research question. This is really identifying the gap in disciplinary knowledge. After your intro sentence and discussing what's already there, you're going to narrow it down to the hypothesis that you are going to try to prove from the data you're collecting. So for example, if I look at this in the exemplar posted, this is about video gaming and how it could be helpful to males in school. The intro sentence says, boys continue to have lower educational aspirations for earning a degree and higher disengagement rates in schools than girls, are less likely to receive praise and recognition for good schoolwork, and have fewer opportunities to do the things they do best. Off the bat, I know that whatever is going to happen in this paper is going to be about males and disengagement in schools. The next several sentences go on to explain why boys have been failing in schools. Okay? As you move forward, it gives you indication into literature that's already been available. At the end of the introduction, it starts to talk about the hypothesis in which people feel that video games could be useful in helping boys be engaged in social sciences and English language disciplines. So, to reiterate, we're going back. The topic is evident. The research question is posed early on. You're explaining where there is a lack of information, and then at the very end, you state your hypothesis. Now, depending on how much research you are able to gather, or depending on your own opinion, you may have an intro that is a page double-spaced. You might have an intro that goes over the page. It just sort of depends what your topic is and how much you have to say on that area. In the example that I've given you, the author is citing information and giving a large background so the introduction runs long. At the end of your intro, you should have answered the following questions. Or read it over to yourself and ask, did I do this? Did I clearly identify the problem? In this case, males are disengaged. Did I state the research question, which is, how can we engage them using video games? Does it tell the reader why you're discussing it? I.e., in this case, the gap growing between males and females. And does it establish why you should be listened to? So the why is really, what is it that I have to say on this that you might be interested in? That's the perspective you're taking or your hypothesis. Okay, a literature review. This is a little bit different than it sounds when you're reviewing the literature. It's kind of like giving a restaurant review or like a sneaker review or a video game review, if you will. You're discussing whether or not you think the literature out there is good, whether you think it's bad, whether you think it's not enough, and then at the end, why you feel there needs to be more information. And that information is what you are actually looking for. So if you found several articles, let's say, on why video games are bad, or how they create, violent teens, you might say this research doesn't do enough because it only addresses video game use at home, or it only addresses video game use in people who have been known to be violent. And you might say something like that, or you might say this video game research is useful because it shows that competitive males use it as an outlet. But there isn't enough research as to show how to take that from the home and use it in schools, which is why I'm doing this. So basically, is the research that you found good? Is the research that you found useful? Do you find the research antiquated or out of date? Or is there nothing available to you and you struggle to find anything? In which case, you're going to discuss that and then why you felt there needed to be more information. Okay, so here is an example of it. You could go through that. Again, you might even flip if you haven't been able to find information and say, I was able to find information on this, but there was almost nothing on what I was looking for, which is why it's created an area of need. Again, you can freeze these slides as you go if you want to read them. There's also the standard version on just Google Slides, shared to Google Classroom. Methodology. Methodology is my favorite part of the paper because it's what turns looking at society into something that becomes a science. So the methodology is exactly how you conducted your research, the types of questions you were asking, who you were asking them to, how you recorded the information that was given to you, and then any problems that you saw in the way that you did it. So when you think about methodology, it's literally like a step-by-step how-to. It's there so that if somebody wants to test your information or test your theory, they can follow the steps that you gave them and conduct the same type of research to see if, you were telling the truth or if you just made stuff up. Obviously, in light of our current COVID situation, your methodology is limited to things that you can do online or with, a certain sample group. So you will make note of that in your methodology section and explain that that was a limitation that you had. So once you have your methodology heading, you're just going to go through and answer these questions. Don't type the question. It's a paragraph, but the type of study that you chose and why. So what it was you wanted to do, who you studied and why, how did you do it? So in our case, it's probably 18 or 24, 16 to 8-year-old males, surveyed through Google Forms via multiple choice, short answer whatever the types of questions you asked for were. How did you identify your pool? Which groups did you feel, or what group specifically did you feel would be best for answering these questions? And then why the sample size reflects that pool. So like if I'm asking 24 people, is it fair to say that these 24 people represent a larger pool of the same number as it would be? If you would have preferred to ask all the grade 9s, you're going to mention that in, problems for collecting data or limitations in your research. Again, because of COVID. When you set up your methodology, you can have subheadings like participants. There's my watch. You're going to set up methodology like participants and interview procedure if you want to divide those subheadings. If you don't want to divide it into subheadings, you can write it as a large paragraph. At the end, you might look at data collection and analysis. So as well in your methodology, you're going to put, once I received my surveys, I went through and I grouped the answers, or I tried to find like answers. So the research method you chose, who your participants were, how you gathered the information, and then once you have it, what your decision-making process is and how to interpret it. Did you try to find groups of answers together, single answers together? Did you try to draw a line between, people's ethnicities or ages or depending on who you asked? Then you want to try to use how you interpreted their results to show you what that research means. So for example, in the video game article, the participants were 10 to 17-year-old white males in a rural community, all of them athletic. They were used because people believed that the competitive nature of those boys would serve well in video games, and they would be able to use the video games or their feelings in video games and apply it in the classroom. So if the boys reported feeling more engaged, what does that mean? Does that mean competition can be emulated in a classroom in a positive way? And you're going to explain that. Again, based on your own information. If you want to display your results via charts, or your data collections via charts and show your data, you absolutely can do that. Just make sure you're explaining what that chart shows. And then after the chart, you say, I think that this means this. Okay. In terms of a discussion, what do these findings mean going forward? So, because I found this information, because I found these connections between my research and what was already out there, or my research and what I think is happening, this means that in the future, there should be more data in this field, or there should be more data in this field, or because I found this out, people should start doing this. So, if we find out that strategy in video games helps people understand the histories better because they can emulate, wars and sacrifice and trading goods and services, they should be more frequently used in schools and implemented this way. Maybe not in math class, but maybe yes in histories. You can also say, my research agrees with people, or I found it not to agree with anybody. Okay, so here's a discussion example. And then in your conclusions, some disciplines, like when you go to university, are going to say you don't have to have a conclusion at all. It's short in social science. In the future, you're going to ask your professor because you don't always have to have one. I would like you to say a conclusion that says my hypothesis was either correct or incorrect, and recommendations going forward. Other than that, your APA tutorial will be posted tomorrow. That is the very last page, and if you have any questions, please email me. You can set up a working doc, and I will get back to you ASAP. Have a good day, everybody.